also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. Our top story tonight. Philip Schofield says he's agreed to step down from ITV's flagship daytime show this morning with immediate effect. ITV has confirmed he won't be returning despite 2 decades at the helm, with last Thursday's episode being his final appearance. Co-host Holly Willoughby will not be leaving. She's responded, saying the sofa won't feel the same without him. Mr. Schofield posted on social media saying he wanted to protect the show he loved. It's after his brother, Timothy Schofield, was jailed for 12 years after being convicted of child sex offences. Rishi Sunak says the G7 has sent a powerful message to Russia that it stands united with the people of Ukraine.
Good to see you. How are you? Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Bye, guys.
Well, earlier on, the Prime Minister and other world leaders welcomed President Zelensky to the G7 summit in Japan. The comments come as the White House approved plans to provide F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine and to train its pilots. President Zelensky hailed the move as historic, saying it will greatly enhance Ukraine's army in the sky. Sinn Féin's Vice President Michelle O'Neill is hailing the local election results in Northern Ireland as momentous as the party becomes the largest in local government. With less than 10 seats left to declare, Sinn Féin has 143 councillors so far, whilst the DUP has 122 and the Alliance Party 66. It's the first electoral test for the party since last year's Assembly elections and takes place against the backdrop of the Stormont stalemate. Labour is calling on the Prime Minister to investigate following claims that the Home Secretary asked civil servants to help her avoid getting speeding points on her licence. Now, according to the Sunday Times, Sowella Braverman asked Home Office aides to organise a one-to-one driving awareness course after she was caught speeding last summer. When they refused, she reportedly asked a political aide to help, but ultimately decided to accept the points. A source close to Mrs Braverman says the speeding ticket and arrangements for dealing with it were reported to the Cabinet Office at the time. The Labour leader is expected to warn the NHS is not sustainable unless serious and long-term reforms are made. Sir Keir Starmer will make a speech in the east of England tomorrow to outline his vision for modernising the health service. He'll say current issues can't be fixed solely with more money and set out fundamental changes, including extra investment and performance targets. The Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has previously called government plans to use private sector capacity a short-term fix. And a suspect has been arrested after scaling the front of the BBC building in central London in protest against a historic statue. Earlier, a man had been seen hammering at the Prospero and Ariel statue, which has been on display since 1933. Shortly after 6 p.m, he was arrested on suspicion of criminal damage and going equipped. Campaigners have been calling for the statue's removal as its sculptor, Eric Gill, admitted in his diaries that he had sexually abused his daughters. We're on TV, online, on DAB+ radio and on TuneIn too. This is GB News. Time now for our headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Leo Kears and tonight I'm joined for a romp through Sunday's newspapers by the erudite Steve N. Allen and the error-prone Lewis Schaefer. How are you both doing?
Pretty good, thanks. Lovely intro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lewis.
I have to use the loo.
You have to use the... Well, you don't have to. But you can if you want. Anyway, let's have a look at Sunday's front pages. The Mail on Sunday has Sowella tried to cover up speeding offence. The Sunday Telegraph leads with Migration SAR backs student visa curbs. The Observer has top Tory donor faces probe over multi-million fraud claims. The Sunday Express has Brexit will be a roaring success anytime now. The Sunday Mirror has they think it's all sofa. It is now as Phil stands down from this morning. Still not sure what that's all about. And the Daily Star on Sunday leads with Holly 1, Wally 0. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Sunday Express, Steve.
Yep, they go with the headline, Brexit will be roaring success. I think they just copy and paste from an old edition. I'm sure they've run with that headline before.
Is this from 2014?
It might as well be, because it's from the Express. And this is just the cry that we're going to hear on the way into every election, because regardless of how done Brexit is, the promise of doing it better or more will always win people over. So this is Sowella Braverman, who's promising to do good deals out of it. And making a roaring success of Brexit surely is what everyone would claim they want. Yeah. Like Keir Starmer saying wants better trading arrangements with Europe. He wants the best Brexit. It's one of those things where everyone's individual version of the best Brexit is exactly the one they think will be best.
I think we know, really, a lot of people on the left don't want Brexit to succeed because they're bitter and they don't want to see the other side doing anything well. I mean, Brexit could lead Britain to becoming, a Singapore in Europe, if it's handled correctly. What do you make of it, Lewis?
I make of it is that you're wrong, because it's not that they don't want it to be a success. Well, they don't want it to be a success. They just think that the alternative is better, which is being with Europe. Yeah. And I once said the most interesting thing about Brexit. I said that a person that the people who voted against Brexit for remaining are people who wanted their children to one day be able to work in Europe. And the people who supported Brexit wanted one day for their children to be able to work in Britain.
I mean, that's an interesting riddle.
There's a point in the article where they say the Treasury says... Actually, no, this is linked to the next story we'll do, but it comes up here as well. The idea that then managing to get people work... If you stop people coming to the UK to work, so we take those jobs, and we can mention that again in the next story, it will cause inflation, because the only way to get people who don't want those jobs to do those jobs, you get a supply and demand issue where the favour goes towards the people who would be doing the work. You've got to pay them a bit sweet money to get...
Yeah, so the workers get rewarded more for the work. But so the balance of wealth shifts in the country from say, landowners, business owners to workers, which is, a fairly left-wing thing. It used to be what the left wanted before they decided that open borders and pronouns were...
But my point is that the same newspapers that would be saying, pay nurses money, that will cause inflation. So they're all in favour, or rather dismiss the idea of inflation being created by employing people in the UK to do the fruit-picking tasks. But they suddenly think paying nurses more will cause inflation and therefore we shouldn't do it.
But don't you think we could have the best of both worlds, where we sort of rejoin in some way the single market without rejoining the EU? We rejoin the single market so we can trade freely with Europe, like a lot of countries do, and also we can set our own trade rules with the rest of the world.
That's what Europe was all about in the beginning. It's just a trading structure. And so they took it a bit too far. People like you, Steve.
I'm not old enough to be blamed for that. But you're agreeing with Keir Starmer then, which I think might be the first time.
Let's move on. Anyway, what does the Sunday Telegraph have in the front cover, Lewis?
The Sunday Telegraph has Migration SAR back student visa curbs. And what it is what's her name? Her name is what's her name?
Sowella Braverman.
Sowella, another one.
I was going to wait.
Is that her? Is that Sowella Braverman still?
The level of research you put into this is...
I do. No, I wrote it down and then I forgot it, really, because it's like so unimportant to me. And I don't know if it's true. You don't know. She's just saying something. Basically, they've opened the doors to immigration and they want to give something back. So what they're saying is, we're going to stop the graduation visas that I didn't even know this happened. That if you went to university here, they gave you 2 years to live in the country.
Yeah.
Plus, you're allowed to bring your family.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, the student visa scheme has almost become a sort of loophole that people can come to the UK and work and bring their family. Because it seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Steve, but when you started at university, did you take your mum with you? Because I didn't. I mean, I would have if I could, but I didn't.
Oh, I thought you meant the other kind of family. I'm from Mansfield, so I was a late bloomer in that I didn't have 3 kids by the time I was 18. I thought you meant like that. But look, I mean, some of these are like master's degrees and older, further down the line of education. So I suppose some people do have families involved like that.
Some people, a lot do. 80,000 of them. 73,000 stay on, plus an additional 80,000. You didn't read the story.
No, I did, and I was just about to say the numbers are so low that this is the kind of headline that is more about let's make it look like we're keeping numbers low. We're losing the battle in terms of small boats, numbers-wise.
Yeah.
We're about to get the highest net migration, so let's have a headline that doesn't have the numbers early in the story, so it just seems like we're keeping it lower. We're keeping it low by a couple of tens of thousands.
I mean, it's a puzzle that's got to be solved piece by piece. So even though, small boat crossings, it's not a huge proportion of total migration. Students, it's not a huge proportion, but everything adds up. And this could be one of the things where people are paying to enrol in some shonky degree just to be able to work in the UK and just to be able to bring their family over. Because we all know that once you're here, you're pretty much here.
Yeah, but what about the people who are going to the better schools? They're paying full whack. It's quite a money spinner for these universities, is it not?
It is, and there's probably going to be some pressure for that to continue. Anyway, what's on the front cover of the Mail on Sunday, Steve?
Sowella. I've learned her name. Tried to cover up speeding offence. This is not even good scandal. At least when the Tories were doing scandal and it was like, oh, here's a couple of billion in the back pocket for making some PPE that doesn't exist. This is, I got caught speeding, you can fix it for me. The worry is that it breaks the ministerial code to try and get the civil service to do stuff just for you. Sometimes it seems like Sowella thinks the ministerial code is like the Enigma code. If you can break it, you should as soon as possible. And this was... The speeding offence was when she was Attorney General, but the asking the civil service to help her out was when she was Home Secretary first time, before the security leak. Here's someone. Do you reckon she can help with our security on the borders? Can't even keep a Word document secret. So, I mean, that's the latest on this, that maybe this is another scandal.
But I've heard that this is being blown out of proportion, and she didn't really... I mean, Lewis, what do you make of this?
It sounds like it wasn't blown... It was blown out of proportion. At the end of the day, you're in an office. Of course, you're going to ask other people in the office, hey, can you help me out? Do you know what to do in this situation?
Yeah.
Eventually she took the points. It wasn't like that other woman who made her husband take the points, or that Lib Dem back.
Other way around, Vicky Price.
Vicky Price, yeah. Who that was basically illegal. So this doesn't seem... I love the name Sowella Braverman. It sounds like a Jewish girl from Great Neck, Long Island, where I was raised. It sounds like a girl who would not date me. Great Neck,
I'm sure it still is in this case.
Doesn't narrow it down much, Lewis. Anyway, finally, what's on the front cover of the Sunday Mirror, Lewis?
This is... They think it's all over, and it shows the fantastically haired Phil, what's his name, Schofield, and Holly. I don't watch these people.
It's written down.
I read it, but you know what it is? It goes in one ear and out the other. I mean, what do you make me... I'm not a reader.
Listen, Steve, you might have some...
I do.
You might at least know the basic facts of this story.
I can fill you in on the timeline. I remember when the biggest scandal about Philip Schofield was that he'd gone grey and lied about it. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
It's got somewhat worse since, but he's resigned.
He's resigned. Any idea why?
He's resigned. Why do you ask him? He knows less than I know.
On this question, let's ask Lewis.
And then I was about.
Lewis, you're good at speculating.
I'll tell you what he did wrong. He did something. I hate to say it. I don't want to besmirch the guy's name, but basically, people are fed up with him, and she's basically been. And they said she's got a future. She's young and pretty, and he's. He looks all right for his age, as I do. I look amazing. But
I think for a seat on that couch.
I think they decided that we have a future with Holly Willoughby, but we don't have a future with Philip Schofield.
So that's all you think it is?
That's all I think it is.
Just a sudden decision before the end of his contract has just come out from... They've just suddenly decided they don't...
Did he sign a contract?
No, but it's before the end of his contract.
Yeah, so, I mean, and one thing about this country is I tell you, it's the most amazing country. No one ever gets fired in this country. Everybody resigns in good terms. We've made a decision. We work at it mutually.
I've got a feeling this one might not turn out like that. Anyway, that's the front pages dealt with. Join us in a moment for Sadiq Khan's PTSD, a Guardian journalist losing her court case, and the government junking vaccines. See you in 2 minutes. Don't go away.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearse, joined by Steve N. Allen and Lewis Schaefer. And kicking things off with the Observer reporting on the Northern Irish elections, and it seems that political campaigning is better at winning people over than murdering them, Steve.
That's one way of looking at it. Sinn Féin hails momentous result as party set to become largest in council, so it's the council elections. And every victory in an election is described as momentous. It is in the fact that it's the first time that they're the largest party in the councils, but we should have predicted it, I suppose, because this rather mirrors the previous Assembly results, which were momentous.
Yeah.
Looking through this, though, and I don't know if this is my take on it, and maybe I'm hugely wrong, but every single time you get lower down in these stories, you hear about this non-aligned alliance party that keeps growing, that takes more of the vote away from the more heading towards the middle ground parties.
Yeah, because it was the SDLP that lost so many seats this time.
So if you were moderate, you've done really badly this time. And the newspapers then go, look, all these votes have gone to the extremes. They haven't. You've got an increase in this centre ground, but it's not like we're talking about left and right in a sense. this will be the end of the story. This will be how the story ends, maybe not for a while, but with more people, according to polls, saying that they don't identify as nationalists or unionists, the future will be people who move on from this issue. Now, I still don't know how you resolve the Brexit. This is the driest answer I've ever given to anything. In a minute, he'll libel someone. But yeah, I still don't know how you sort out the Brexit impact to this and what that's done to wherever you draw your border, which is part of this story as well.
But it also, I mean, it speaks to the changing demography of Northern Ireland, which was, I mean, the 6 counties were set up to remain Protestant. That was the whole idea behind them. And now Catholics are the majority there. And now we see, you know, that reflected in Sinn Féin. That's part of the reason, you know, Sinn Féin is the...
Well, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, the DUP is looking towards Britain to save it. It's hoping that demographics don't happen, that demographic change doesn't happen. I think basically the Protestants are in trouble there, and I think they've got to do something with the nationalists, because their future looks very bleak, and I feel for them.
Okay, that was like the answer to my third-year French exam.
Yeah,
just bluffing it. But I respect that you tried. Anyway,
I don't know. You know what it is. If you're on Twitter, Louis Schaefer, tell me if I was bluffing it. Tell me if I was bluffing it, Louis Schaefer.
Staying with the Guardian, we've got more fraud allegations dogging the Tory party, Louis.
Yeah, well, this is. I hate to come in early. This is a non-story. So major Tory donor investigated over fraud and money laundering allegations. This guy named Karan Sharanda. He's an Indian guy. He had a global brand of rice, which was quite good. And he did 3 things. One, he's diverted money from Indian banks of 116 million, right? And then he gave 22,000 pounds of this money that he didn't do anything with except take, possibly. I guess I'm not sure, but gave it to the Tory party.
220,000.
220,000, and then he went bust. So the story is a rich guy who has businesses in this country gave money to the Tory party and then went bust.
I mean, it sounds, you know, I hate to be selfish, but as a British person, he's committing fraud in another country, taking some of that money he's, you know, grabbed and then donating it to this country.
Yeah.
I mean, why can't more crooks do that?
Why can't we be the centre for money laundering? Is what you just said.
No, just the proceeds of money laundering.
Oh, brilliant. And it helps GDP, I suppose. Yeah, money coming. Look, there is a question about how much foreign money we should have in our politics, because what's it there for? What's it doing other than trying to get favour in a way that might not be to the benefit of the UK? And it's not... There's ways around it, of course. Anyone who has the wherewithal to set up shell companies to borrow money and pretend to be paying your own other business to manage to get around it can find a way of getting money through the part of the food business that's registered in the UK into the Tory party. Now, there are calls to have better scrutiny on this. Why would they? Why would they scrutinise their own... They won't.
They're not going to mark their own homework.
Yeah, not going to mark it down anyway.
Yeah.
But the amount of money is so minuscule, 220,000 compared. I know everyone says, "Oh, Britain is a very small country," but it's like 1/4 the size of America, or 1/5, something very. But it's still a substantial country.
What, in landmass?
No, in terms of population and gross domestic product and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's still a large country, and he has 220,000 pounds.
To a political party. I mean, it's a pretty big chunk to a political party. Anyway, we've got the eye now, and Sadiq Khan admits to being a snowflake, Steve.
Well, he says that he has suffered PTSD after death threats and terror attacks. Now, I'm not going to say that death threats are great. Obviously, that must be terrible. We all have bad times online, but I imagine what he gets is different. The problem is just the use of the term PTSD.
Yeah.
If he'd have said, I am somewhat impacted emotionally, mental health-wise, about having death threats all the time online.
Yeah.
Part of the problem there is, online, you should attack the policy, attack the principle that you're arguing, don't attack the person with, like, oh, some death threat. You're not winning an argument that way.
Yeah.
And then the terror threats, the terror attacks, having to deal with this and knowing that people want to have these kind of actions done against you.
And this is real-life terror attacks that he's dealing with.
Yeah. So in that, it's true.
But also he says he gets it from both sides. So he gets it from, you know, I guess you'd say, you know, white nationalists or whatever, you know, people on the far right side. But he also gets it from Muslims who are furious at him, from, you know, extremist Muslims who are furious at him for, you know, being a moderate centrist.
But I think...
And I'd imagine they're a bit scarier because they've got a bit more of a track record of actually doing something.
Well, he considers everybody a threat to him. Didn't he consider people who are protesting ULEZ things as being like Nazis and super dangerous? This story is very interesting because he's basically talking to his people, his woke people, and saying, look at me, I'm all touchy-feely. I have feelings too. Which maybe to his audience, they respond to that.
Well, they love it for Meghan when she's all like, oh, I'm distraught because I was in a high-speed car chase.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the more telling part of it is it's in this interview where you hear him say, I'm not comparing myself to what other people go through with PTSD. And he says, as a lawyer, people you work with PTSD are asylum seekers and refugees. And you think, can't you even manage to include soldiers in when coming up with examples? But the same bias is true the other way. Some right-wing person, when listing people with PTSD, wouldn't say asylum seekers, so I suppose...
But then some of the asylum seekers with PTSD probably were soldiers before they decided to come to Calais and jump on something that floats. Anyway, moving on, we've got The Observer now, and it's a terrible day for press freedom, specifically the freedom to make damaging lies about people, Lewis.
Yes, I mean, that's the way The Guardian presents it, the way you presented it. It's Observer's Carol Cadwallader facing heavy legal costs in Aaron Banks' case. And she had said that Aaron Banks was in the pockets of the Russians, I think that's what she said.
Covert links.
Covert links. And she and Aaron Banks had to pay, and Aaron Banks sued her, and he's the guy who gave all the money to Brexit, like £8 million.
£8 million, that's a serious chunk of money. That's
a serious chunk of money. Well, good on that guy. But when he sued the first time, she was ordered to give him he was ordered to give her £790,000.
So this is the appeal.
And this is the appeal, and they said in the appeal, you've got to give the £790,000 back.
And she spent it.
And of course she spent it.
I mean, if somebody gave me 790 grand, I wouldn't hold on to it just in case
the appeal, right? Plus £35,000 in damages, plus £52,000 in court case, which is 800. And she works for The Guardian. I can't imagine her having that kind of money.
And it's a serious chunk of money, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the bit of the appeal that went in Aaron Banks' favour is about continuing to repeat the original claim.
Yeah.
One court found that to not have damage to him, his reputation. The appeal says that it does. So it's not like the story can also be, by some other areas of the press, been written like, oh, he's won absolutely every single part of this appeal. But he hasn't. But it's the thing about repeating the claim that then means...
Well, and also the fact that the claim was a lie. So the claim was a lie.
The defence was dropped.
And it was damaging. Yeah, she dropped the defence of truth, and she could have not had gone through any of this just by saying, I'm really, really sorry, and I retract all my statements, and I'm sorry for lying about you.
It was in a TED Talk, wasn't it? So I think the fact that it's still available to watch means it's repeatable.
But the part that made her liable was sharing it on Twitter.
Yes. But I mean, yeah, that's just posting a link to a video that you're in.
Yeah, and that's what made her liable. So she could have retracted, she could have deleted that, she could have made steps to show that she was contrite and she'd learned from her mistakes, and she wasn't, even though she works at The Guardian, she's not going to make up any lies anymore. I know that's going to be hard in her next work review, but, she could have done something like that and really, really apologised. Right. And backtracked. Instead, she allowed the case to go to court because she thought she might win it.
Why did she think she was going to win it?
Well, I think also there was no jeopardy for her because crowdfunding was going to cover costs.
Right.
So yeah, maybe this side, the tribe, thought that they could punish the other tribe. Because it has cost Aaron Banks a lot of money as well.
Yeah. So maybe I think she thought everyone sides with me. No judge is going to side with Aaron Banks.
Yeah, because a lot of people live in an echo chamber, a bubble, where nobody was saying to her, actually, this is, not everybody on the other side is bad, and you can't just say whatever you want because, it's morally justified.
But that is true of both ends of the spectrum, though. There are many echo chambers out there, and they've been around for years. What was that phrase some American was quoted as saying? I didn't know anyone who voted for Reagan. What does that mean? You're in an echo chamber.
Yeah, it's great to be right here in the middle. Anyway, we've got the Mail now, and millions of doses of COVID vaccines are being wasted before they can cause myocarditis in a healthy young person, Steve. That's obviously a joke, by the way. I'm a comedian.
For legal reasons. Data suggests that more than $2 billion has been wasted, I underline that word because that comes back later, on unused COVID vaccines through the pandemic. So instead, because they couldn't use all of them, some of them them have been given to other countries, poorer countries that need them.
Oh
and
my
it's called
God.
wasted.
It's like giving her yellow label Tesco deals to other countries.
It says oops on the side of the vaccine. Here we are. But some of it's wasted just through the way in which it's used. Your vial of vaccine's got 6 doses in, so if someone comes along, you break the seal, you have to chuck that away in a short term. So if you don't have people there, you're going to waste 5 doses, I suppose. And also, in a pandemic, at that part of it, there will be a time when you think, well, we better go a bit high on these numbers. So you're going to end with some waste rather than have the embarrassment of being a government that has to say, oh, sorry, the vaccine that you want we don't have because we were just trying to scrimp for a bit. Ugh, awkward.
Yeah.
There's also a thing in here saying that the World Health Organization has called for new COVID shots to be developed, which this will be the Mail getting ready to try and find an angle on that. That's, what, do you mean like winter flu shots are developed every year?
Yeah.
That's exactly... And this is surely what we
it's
want.
It's not exactly the same, because winter flu shots have been around for quite a long time.
But people always say, oh, this is barely... It's just going to be like a flu. And now the actual truth is meeting that presumption.
Oh, yeah.
People are now saying, oh, no, actually, no, it's not like the flu now. No, sorry, it's still bad.
Lewis, what do you make of this?
What I make of it is the United States, and these were numbers from the United States, that's $2 billion wasted, is they spend $30 billion on vaccines. And there are some people, not me, of course, who think that every single penny spent on vaccines was wasted. As a matter of fact, was beyond wasted because people were harmed by this. I don't say this. I have no information on this, and I denounce anyone who does say it.
But for context, previously on this show, you said viruses don't exist.
I did not say... Yes, OK, no, I did say that, and I said that in a humorous way because everybody knows that viruses do exist.
Well, come on,
everyone knows that viruses do exist, but I have heard that viruses don't exist.
Right. It's amazing what you can do when you spend a lot of time on the internet. Anyway, that's that section dealt with. Join us soon for white people banned from a play and gay people banned from the Arts Council. See you in 2 minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, kicking things off in this section with the Sunday Telegraph and the American government can set their own overdraft limit, but they're choosing not to, Lewis.
Oh, well, this is no debt deal inside as Republicans storm out of unreasonable talks with the White House. And this has to do with the $31 trillion that Americans owe, for the entire country owes as debt. It's a lot of money, you know.
That's a lot.
$1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. After a while, you're talking about like some real money. And that's an old joke. I didn't make that up. And so what happens is that Mr. Spend-It-All, Joe Biden, wants the debt limit to rise. There's a debt limit which says you can't borrow any money past this.
Yeah.
And the Republicans say, you know, we'll let it rise, but you got to give us something, a promise not to spend any more. It's like it's like a woman coming home and saying, I got to buy more stuff on the credit card. And they say you could buy more stuff now, but I'm going to take the credit cards away from you in the future.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, you have to spend the money on it. And they are using.
This is an argument you've actually had, isn't it, Lewis?
Well, it was the other way around.
But this could be a real problem for the American government, because if they don't raise the debt ceiling, they can't pay public sector workers. They can't pay for all the things that the government pays for.
No, they could pay. They could pay for everything except for the stuff that goes above the debt. So as the debt increases, there's a certain amount, maybe it's $1 trillion, $1 billion, that they don't have the money for. So then they go into default because they can't pay that certain amount. So what they're saying is there's a 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which says that basically that the debts of the U.S. government have to be respected, basically. And they're trying to. Sorry, I got to make this.
This would have been better in a Hamilton rap.
But he would have had more time to think about this. I barely understand it.
You've been here all day.
It was saying that the slave states, when they stopped being slave states, they had to respect the debt that they owed to the U.S. government, right? It didn't have to do with the debt that the U.S. government had to anybody. So the Republicans are totally right about this. They say, hey, make a deal. Make a deal, promise us something, and we'll sign you, and we'll give you some more money.
Steve, is Lewis right?
Well, we don't know because we weren't in the room where it happened.
Yeah.
When was the last time the debt ceiling was raised? Oh, every flipping year.
Yeah.
And if they don't agree on it, then the government grinds to a halt, as it did before. I remember the time.
Yeah, this was not long ago. Was it during Trump or?
That's my point, that it happens under both colour of leadership.
What is that called? A game of chicken. It's a game of chicken.
Game of chicken.
And that's what they're playing. They're playing a game of chicken. The Republicans are saying you have to do this, otherwise you'll be blamed for the country going into debt.
Okay.
Going into default.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are saying it's your fault. You borrowed all the money. We're not going to get blamed.
The flip will happen the other way around whenever there's a Republican as president.
And it happens.
Yeah. Okay, well, The Observer now, and this must be good news for teachers. Their audiences are getting bigger, Steve.
Yeah, not happening in my career. Class sizes in England could go up to 60, warns Head in funding pay row. This is because a 4.5% pay increase, according to the government, should come out of the budget that they've already got. The teachers are saying, well, no, it won't, plus also paying for the lights to stay on, because I don't know if you noticed, but fuel's gone up, electricity costs more, and the only way they can then dish out a 4.5% pay increase would be to get rid of some people.
Right.
Get the 4.5 extra. And then you'll have to have larger classes. There is one bit in this article, though, they talk about maths lessons will have to go up from 10, instead of 10 sets of kids, 8 sets, which then, if you mean you get 60 kids in each set, I ran through the maths, previously it was only 48, because if you just do the time, that's already way too big, isn't it?
Yeah.
48 kids in a class. Mm-hmm. Plus also, if the kids can't learn this stuff, no one will be able to work out that little bit of arithmetic that I just did.
Yeah, so they're wrong in their maths already. And they're expecting us to... They want a pay rise for teaching kids when they can't even work out simple maths.
That they're going to do this. I mean, I sent my kids to school, and I didn't go to school myself, but I sent my kids to school. And the problem with this country, I've said this centralization. What is the state, the government doing involved in like some local Church of England? Why are they giving money to the Church of England?
The state pays. The state pays for education.
So tell me why that's bad, Leo.
Well, it's not about that, but it's about, I mean, I guess if they don't get more funding, if they can't find more teachers, then class sizes will go up. Unless, I mean, we're facing a demographic cliff. People aren't having children, so maybe that'll solve the problem. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Sunday Telegraph now with more evidence of racism against white people, Lewis.
Yes, there's a white theatregoer who's turned away from play aimed at black audiences, which is a lie. Sorry, Telegraph. It's a lie. No one was turned away. What they did was, it was an American production, and they were putting it on at the Theatre Royal, Stratford East, which is a lovely theatre. I've been there. Yep. And they're selling tickets for £37.50. And the theatre urged white people not to attend. So no white people were turned away.
Wait a minute. So you're saying this is justified because they didn't actually have people there in pitchforks jabbing at white people to keep them away from the doors?
No, it isn't. It isn't justified. I'm with you. But it's not true, this headline. The white theatregoers were not turned away. They were suggested not to be there, which is bad.
So they were turned away before they even left the house?
They weren't turned away. They were said, please don't come. It's not the same thing as being turned away. You want to question it? I'm with you. I think it's outrageous.
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, the description for the show read, a blackout night is the purposeful creation of an environment in which an all-black identifying audience can experience and discuss an event in the performing arts and cultural spaces free from the white gaze. That's G-A-Z-E rather than, you know.
but see, I agree with... Whatever, I don't agree. I'm not the kind of person, I'm a contrarian, I don't agree. But what sickens me about this is how the Telegraph, it's a lie. No white people...
It's not a lie.
It is
Come
a
on,
lie.
They're being turned away. You think any white person is going to go along and see...
That's not the same as being turned away, Leo.
It is. They're being told,
away is
being told not
you
to come.
cannot come in.
That's literally what they're saying.
No, it doesn't say. They were urged. There's a different word, urged.
Urged.
They weren't
told. What's the difference?
Just to jump back, I suppose the difference would be if you actually wanted to, you could go and see this play on that day and just sit there really awkwardly as everyone in the room keeps looking around like...
Oh, you've just given me a wonderful idea, Steve.
That's your plan.
Yeah, I'm going to get Lewis some tickets.
You can also see this play on other nights. It's one night that they do this thing to get press. Surely this is nothing other than a publicity.
I think this
There you go. Thank you, Steve.
No, this sets a terrible precedent. Then, you know, somebody's going to put on a play. They're going to say, like, well, this can be a play for just white people, and you know, then we've snowballed into racial segregation.
And the first black police commissioner is against it, and Festus Akinbuyaso was also a Festus. So people, even black people, know this is a bad thing. But Steve will agree with me that headline is an untruth.
No,
Steve will.
Having to agree with him, but
he agrees with me.
No one was turned
Listen,
away.
I'm the host. I verify that headline is correct. Anyway, the Sunday Times now with evidence that the Arts Council is viciously homophobic, Steve.
So the headline is worker at Arts Council likened LGBT alliance to Ku Klux Klan. There's a bit of a storyline you've got to get in place here. This is about this Denise Famey, who's going through some court stuff because she lost a job because of standing up again, or questioning, actually. This is what it is. The Arts Council said that they retracted a grant to LGBT Alliance.
Yeah, which is a lesbian, gay and bisexual group.
Yeah, without the trans part of the LGBT all the rest of the letters, which I'm sure there's a text update you can get to get the latest.
Yeah, because it's about sexuality rather than, you know, gender and things like that.
So she questioned this. The headline actually refers to a bit in a petition that was sent around where people were writing things. Someone said that they're fast becoming the KKK of the LGBTQIA plus community. Also, another little thing in the article, that Simon Mellor, who's the Deputy Chief Executive of the Arts Council, said that LGB Alliance were a divisive organisation that has a history of anti-trans exclusionary activity. And I looked at that because trans exclusionary, I get, but anti-trans exclusionary...
That's a double negative.
...would be... I'm not even sure. I need a flip chart to work out who they're excluding. But I think we've solved the problem.
I read that and I agree with him. I agree.
2 in a show.
2 in a show, I agree. I just want to let it be known that I do a little radio show on a little community radio station that gets money from the Arts Council. So I'm going to step out of this discussion.
You get Arts Council. Well, this is the problem with the Arts Council. They fund comedians, they fund artists, and then all of a sudden the comedians aren't speaking the truth anymore. They're not saying what they want to say. They're saying what they say to fill in the forms and get their money from the government. And all of a sudden you're a state mouthpiece, Lewis.
I take offence at that.
You literally just said you're not going to comment on the story because you get money from the Arts Council.
I think you misheard me.
Well, I think this is disgusting. I mean, they've got a homosexual organisation, an organisation for homosexuals. They're not only slandering it as compared to the Ku Klux Klan, but they're rescinding a grant that was awarded to it. They're stopping funding to it. And when somebody stood up and questioned this grant being retracted, I think they were hounded out of their job. It says here. So that's disgusting. It shows that how these organisations such as the Arts Council have been captured by woke ideologists and should be shut down.
There's a really good point's been made about the rescinding of a grant, but it needs to be kept separate from what they've gone with in the headline, that calling them the KKK was one person's comment on some... It's not like the official word of the Arts Council. Someone typed...
I bet the official word of the Arts Council isn't that far away from it. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Metro now, and a man dressed as Spider-Man climbing a building. Are Fathers for Justice back in the news, Lewis?
You know what? This story, I've been thinking about this all day because I saw the video of what happened, and it's the most sickening thing that it's like seeing your grandmother pounded in the face with a hammer.
What was it?
Is a man dressed as Spider-Man scales the BBC headquarters and attacks a statue with a hammer, basically smashing this beautiful Art Deco statue from the 1930s, done by this guy named Eric, what's his name?
And why was he doing it?
Eric Gill. Why is he doing it? He's doing it because Eric Gill wrote in his diary that he had abused his own children, so he's a horrible person.
And his family dog.
Yeah. Did he say that?
A Labrador, I believe.
Oh, that changes everything then.
Yeah, it wasn't a pit bull. It's a nice dog.
Nice dog. I didn't realize he was that. Anyway, so the question is art separate from the artist? That's the basic question.
Can you still listen to Michael Jackson?
And the question is, should this guy take it into his own hands to go smash something that's beautiful? And you know who did that with Art Deco sculptures?
Who?
Donald Trump did it with the Bonwit Teller building in New York. That's one of the ways where
his family dog.
No, well, he's done horrible things too, and so that's why people for years I would not support Donald Trump because he was a barbarian. Okay.
Well, that's it for part 2. But join us in the final section for vegan food tanking, an ice cream van at Auschwitz, and aggressive seagulls. Don't go away.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Sunday Times now, and vegan substitutes won't be able to market themselves as vegan cheese and milk. I assume it's because they're disgusting and taste nothing like cheese and milk, Steve.
Interestingly not. It's a different legal issue. Hard cheese for vegans as milk, spelt wrong, and cheese face ban. So the idea was for these alternatives to milk and cheese, that they could be prohibited. This might not even happen. But the idea is that you shouldn't be able to use words that sound alike. This follows on from a court case a few years ago in America, which I loved, where some dairy farmers tried to sue to stop things like oat milk and almond milk being called milk because they're not milked, so therefore it's not milk. And I was with them so far until in the court case the farmers came up with the idea of calling the alternates, calling them nut juice. I'm not going to walk into Costa and ask for some nut juice in my drink, thanks very much. So
because they could probably provide that.
Probably, you'd have to wait. But the milk spelt with a Y, I actually like this, because you know you're not getting the real thing. Yeah. Cheese was a bit weird. I don't even know what this one is. It's B, the plus sign, and then TTER. How do you pronounce that? You can't pronounce the plus, unless it's ad, which would be badter.
Badter. Still,
which tells you what it is. But it kind of makes sense to have them with different names, but apparently this is too similar, so they want even greater separation. You won't be able to call it a mozzarella alternative. You will be able to say you could use this as an alternative to mozzarella.
Yeah. Lewis, I mean, what do you make of vegan cheese type? Because you eat a lot of dairy, don't you?
I eat tons of dairy. That's my 1/3 of my diet is probably dairy. And at the end of the day, these people don't deserve dairy.
Right.
Anybody who's a vegan.
OK. Well, staying on a vegan theme, The Observer has shocking news that nobody wants to eat vegan food, presumably because it tastes bad and isn't healthy, Lewis.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason. And I know this for a fact. Has the vegan bubble burst? Sales stagnate in the UK as brands withdraw plant-based products. So Oatly, Nestle, and Innocent Drinks are among those pulling products from the shelves. And I know this to be a fact because I myself, I'm 100% carnivore. Well, maybe 95% carnivore, except sometimes I get caught. And I know, and I put pictures up on my Twitter thing. Why don't you follow me on Twitter, at Lewis Schaefer.
Tell us about the story, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the story. And I put pictures of meat, and no one's giving me a hard time anymore. I think the whole vegan thing is dead. People know that vegan, and you can defend veganism. You can say you could be healthy on a vegan diet. You can't be. It's missing like at least 15.
I saw a list of all the nutrients that is missing from a vegan diet, or they're in just incredibly small bio-unavailable quantities, and so many things. And also I tried, because I know they really tried pushing it. There's all this plant-based stuff in Marks and Spencer's across the road. So I bought some, and it was like eating inner tires. It was horrible.
Well, that's the thing that we're reading here, is that the sales of those kind of things are dropping. When they say vegan food, what they mean is stuff that's churned out in a factory that somehow tries to be a copy of something from the real world of food. I suppose it's also true that vegans can have access to the kind of foods that aren't caught here, called vegetables. So if you're eating a lot of those, no one's recording this.
Vegetables can be nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
But vegetables are inherently toxic. They're inherently toxic. They need to be... I mean, I'm not saying this is true. This is what I heard on the internet. So and this is a joke too. It's all comedy. It's like every vegetable needs to be cooked, and the ones that aren't cooked every vegetable needs to be cooked, and the ones that you don't, except for the ones that don't have to be cooked, and eventually the toxicity builds up with oxalates and lectins, and the whole thing is really bad for human beings, vegetables.
You know, you said you're a carnivore, and then you also say you eat a lot of dairy. Technically, carnivores don't drink a lot of milk. I think what you are is an infant.
Okay, I am fed up with you and your wordy smartiness. And I think the people know. They say, why are you giving Louis Schaefer a hard time? They know what I mean.
Why am I picking on a child who drinks milk?
Why don't you apologize to the people so that people don't turn on you?
Why don't I?
Anyway, before this turns into a struggle session, we've got the Independent reporting on a businessman gambling that people can lament the Holocaust while eating a chalk ice, Steve.
This is some bad dairy. An ice cream van sparks outrage setting up outside Auschwitz. Who thought that was a good idea? And also, how are you making any money? Who's leaving there going like, oh, this is terrible to know how man's inhumanity to man can become so real. Oh, do you fancy a curly whirly on this one? So, yeah, it's terrible. I suppose it's the free market, so you should like it. But, yeah, I mean, it's not the first story we've heard. There have been pictures of people taking laughing selfies around there.
Well, I mean, I guess on one side, the Nazis would have hated it because they wanted a centrally controlled state economy.
So you're in favour.
So this is
they would have been against this, and the vegans wouldn't have liked it because it's ice cream. I mean, I don't know if I can make a joke about this thing because I'm a Jew, and I think anything that makes going to this place more accept. I'm going to say this, and then I'll say I was wrong to say this, but. You know, they need services. They want more and more people to go there to see what it's like.
Yeah.
And so maybe having an ice cream van.
So this could encourage people to come and learn about the horrors of humanity and the Nazi regime.
Yeah. No, surely no one goes for the ice cream. Sure, it's not we go for the ice cream, stay for the horrible lesson about what humanity is like.
I'm going to say something that I mean it in the nicest way, which is I'm against these kind of places being open.
Ice cream van?
No.
Okay, I've got to end the show. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages.
Leo,
the Mail on Sunday leads with Sowella tried to cover up speeding offence. The Sunday Telegraph has migration SAR backs student visa curbs. The Observer has top Tory donor faces probe over multi-million fraud claims.
Leo?
Please cut Lewis's mic. The Sunday Express has Brexit will be a roaring success.
I have to
the
be able to finish this because people are going to think I'm a horrible
It's first stands down from this morning. And the Daily Star has Holly 1, Wally 0. And those were your front pages, and that's Headliners. Thanks for listening. I'll be Leo Kearse. Bye.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on